Hello and welcome to this edition of the Go West Pole podcast. I'm your host, Sonny Allen, and today I'm joined by our land specialist, Grant Bohls, our land specialist, Tyler Helbing, and our wonderful and amazing Director of Operations, Tonja Hancock. And today we're going to talk about how we represent sellers, sellers of land and ranch real estate. It also applies for our home and luxury properties that we market as well. And it's a subject that I feel like is the most important thing that we talk about and do, and it's evolved over the years. One of the things that I started noticing years ago when I represented buyers, of all things, is how important it was to have good marketing and good data, good information from the opposing agent. If you have to dig too much for content, if you have to work too hard to figure out, what you're looking at, what that listing is, where it's listed, what kind of content you're getting. It's also frustrating for a buyer as well that might be looking at that property online. So we're going to dive into that subject and talk about how that ties into our West Pole way of thinking and higher standard of marketing that we provide our clients. And so I wanted these two guys to join me today because they've had experience with listings and selling and also representing buyers. So they have some great experiences that they can share. And then behind the scenes, the one that makes it all come together and happen is our Director of Operations, Tonja. And we would all be lost without her, I'm happy to say. But so back in 2009, when I rebranded the real estate company and came up with the West Pole concept, named it West Pole, I spent a lot of time studying other brokers who were, massively successful at the time, and some of the top land and ranch brokerages in Texas that were, really setting the world on fire. And I started trying to figure out, what are they doing? What's different? Why are they selling so many more properties than everybody else? And one of the things that really jumped out at me was how much money they were spending on photography. And a lot of, back then the print magazines were big, and they were on the covers with this elaborate photography, and they, put a lot of good content out there. And so I decided that, I was going to drill down on that, and I came up with a term: I'm going to set a higher standard than what they're doing. And so we started exploring different things. I remember back before aerial photography was even so much of a thing, I found a drone. And it was primitive, but I,
duct tape.
Found a way to duct tape a GoPro on the bottom of it and fly it around and get some aerial shots. And they were shaky and not that great, but it was, nobody else was doing it at the time, so it was kind of a cutting edge deal. But over the years of representing buyers, you kind of learn how to represent sellers because you know the frustrations, you know what they're going through. When you're looking at that property online, it's highly frustrating when you don't have a lot of good content to evaluate. And then you have to dig and go research and look stuff up on the tax rolls and try to figure out, okay, what is it they're offering here? Why aren't they putting it out there? And I started realizing that, when buyers are focused on, looking at property, especially nowadays when everybody's looking on the internet, there's just not a lot of patience for that. And if a buyer doesn't see what they want to see online, they often will just click on and go to the next one and forget about that property. They don't want to dig. They don't, these are people that value their time as much as their money. They don't want to get in the truck and drive hours to go look at a property unless they already know what they're going to see, or they have an inclination that, hey, this might be the one. And so we basically built our whole marketing strategy around that concept of putting out an abundance of information, an abundance of content, very, very high quality photography, videography, websites. We built a website for every property. There's a video on our website at gowestpole.com that talks about this, how I compare that to fly fishing versus most realtors are bait fishing. Some of them even just take iPhone pictures and throw it on MLS and wait on somebody to call them. Our strategy is much more proactive in how we package it up, and then we start casting that flyer, that website out to people and getting it in front of potential, prospects that, could be interested in that property. And it also creates a tool where we can pass along information, when I'm driving out to Shore Ranch and another agent calls and says, hey, I'd like to see a survey on this property. I just sent them the website. It's on there. Here you go. And so there's a lot of reasons that go into this. It can, we can over talk it because it gets kind of complex. But in the past couple of years, as we've built this team and we've evolved to where we are today, Grant and Tyler have both represented sellers and also represented buyers and had experiences, both ways, and been able to really understand the concepts of what we do. So Grant, tell me, what is it about the way that we market properties that you think has the most value to you as an agent?
Well, kind of like what you said, putting all that stuff out there is great for a buyer or a seller as a client. It also helps the realtor. Us being the ones that do the initial research, the initial looking. Someone's going to send me something on Zillow and be like, oh, I want to look at this. I can't get anything I need off Zillow. So if I can go to a website, or at least if the MLS has that information on it, it makes my job easier, makes us look better for our clients, which if we're doing it for a seller, it's better for that agent as well. When they're representing someone to come see our property, they're going to have everything they need, whether we're there showing it or not. They should be able to do what they need to do, and no questions theoretically would need to be asked because we've already presented it. One of the tools that I really like that we do on all our properties is MapRight, or which used to be MapRight, now Land ID. That is such a useful tool because
how did we ever live without it?
Well, and it's like, even like you said, like, hey, can I get a survey? I don't know how many properties I've looked at where I can't even get a survey. It's like, how do I even know if this is the correct boundary line or not? So we provide a map, a Land ID map link, which shows the survey. You can have it out there on site. You can see exactly where you are on the property. You can, show ponds, houses, blinds, whatever. Mm-hmm. It's just another tool that we use for all of our properties.
You can zoom out and see the exact location. It also has multiple layers where you can view topography,
floodplains, topo, all of
water
that.
Features,
So, not only are we just trying to provide everything up front, make it an easy, interaction between buyers, sellers, and agents, but we're even going a little extra, and that's not a free tool, but that's something that we provide, especially on a seller side.
Yeah, and it's amazing to me to this day. I still know people in the business who are too tight with their money to pay for that subscription to have that, and it's one of the most unique tools that we could possibly have. So.
It's so helpful. Yeah. With an aerial just map, you can figure things out. I even use it for when I'm doing listings. I'll even go in, because you can customize it. I can draw, here's the road to follow. Like, you don't even have to think about it.
Yep.
Like,
here's where the deer blinds are. Here's where the lake is, and the creek comes
You
here.
can put the code on it if you need to. You can send it out, be like, here's everything you need. Or if you're with, showing it, here's where we are. It just
the
very
feature
useful.
that I use the most on there is the parcels.
Exactly.
You put it on the parcel, it pull up the appraisal district info. So if you're looking for tax info or ownership, you can pull.
I've even had people ask, how far away is that power pole?
Yeah,
there's a measure tool on there. It may not be exact, but hey, it's 100 feet. Okay.
Yeah.
100 feet. That's a good spot to build.
Yeah.
It's a very unique tool to our industry.
Yeah.
And it's something that we prioritize in our listings.
Yeah, we spend a lot of money on tools like that. LandGlide's another one.
Right.
The subscriptions we pay for, including the multiple MLSs that we belong to. Land brokerage is not like a residential realtor where you might work,
one MLS.
Yeah, or even a couple of zip codes,
Right.
And, that's one of the hardest things I think about what we do is we cover such a big geographic area, but it's expensive to belong to all the major MLSs in Texas. But because we do, we're able to get those properties out into every marketplace. Most of our buyers aren't coming from the small town where the property is we're selling. Those buyers are coming from,
Dallas,
far away,
Houston.
Dallas, Houston, or even out of state.
Yeah.
So by being able to put that out there in all those MLSs, it gives us a very unique advantage. And The other, I think, thing that we've been really excelling at lately is this our affiliation with Keller Williams. And
I was just about to bring that up.
The Keller Williams Land Division, they have a new global website that we can put properties out on. I serve as a director with the Texas Alliance of Land Brokers, and they have a website we can put properties out on. And that's really the push, is to get it in front of as many people as we can, get the abundance of information out there so they can make a decision and present the property in the best way we can. We don't try to over-embellish properties or make them look better than they can. That's another trust issue. If somebody shows up to your property and the pictures look like it was like, $1 million, and they show up and it's
I've rolled
half
up on
that,
a few like
right?
that. Yeah.
So, we want to present it.
Lawnmower is?
We want to present it in the best way we can without trying to, over-represent it as something that it's not. But
I mean, Tyler and I have trimmed tree branches before for listings. I mean,
oh my gosh,
we'll get out there for you.
Yeah, we've had to change.
I think you brought up something that we probably don't talk enough about, but our affiliation with Keller Williams, and especially Keller Williams Land, what that brings to the table, definitely on the seller side with all of the resources they have, and how we're still a team. This is, most of us right here, we're our small team aspect, but have national, worldwide resources behind us.
Connections literally globally.
And Keller has recently realized how important land is. And so they have invested quite a bit of money in the KW Land brand. And so I think we're going to see that explode even more over the next, 6 months, to a year. I just think the benefits of having that behind us is going to increase over the next year and beyond, and it's pretty invaluable.
It is. So you're going to get that small, luxury service that Westpole provides with the resources of Keller Williams.
Yep, exactly. So Tyler, talk to us about your experiences in listing and marketing properties, and a little bit about your background and how this ties into you and helping you promote your clients' properties and your business.
Yeah, absolutely. I think some of the most important things when marketing a property is it needs to be accessible and digestible, right?
Well put, yes.
Like we talked about, oftentimes when you're representing a buyer, you go online, you don't need to spend 5 hours on something that should take 30 minutes, right, to get the information.
But how often do we do that? Because they didn't put the data together. They don't have the information out there. They're too cheap to pay for the resources or the photography. And
a lot of times there's a correlation between people who don't have the information concise and digestible. They're also hard to get a hold of, believe it or not.
Yep.
Then it becomes really hard to get a survey.
Yep.
And then that same person didn't inform their client that they need a new survey. Right. So taking those steps, I think, is extremely important. And we cross our T's and dot our I's. And a lot of people in our world do not.
Yep.
Right. And so that's a major separating factor. And another important thing, we've been lucky enough to partner with our marketing team and zone in on our photography and videography.
Yep.
I can't tell you how many people have come up to me and asked, who do y'all use?
Yep.
Right. And being able to lean on them and trust them with the process is extremely important and rare.
To elaborate on that, we have a full-time marketing team that we work with that handles our photography, videography, and our content for our listings, and it's invaluable. They're wonderful people, do an incredible job. So.
Right. And another frustrating commonality we see a lot is when there are poor pictures of a property, oftentimes I'll have seen that property in person and I'll have to convince a buyer to go out and see it because the pictures are so bad.
It's the reverse of what Grant and I were just talking about.
And then suddenly I'm having to convince my client, hey, no, these pictures are poor, they're fuzzy. Yes, they were taken with an iPhone. But don't hold that against the property.
Yeah, we go look at it because that's what we do, and we have to go investigate it before we waste our clients' time. So we go preview everything we can that comes on the market, and there's so often you show up and you go, dang.
Oh, yeah.
This is cool. This is way cooler than I thought it was going to be based on those cheap photos we looked at.
Absolutely.
How many property tours do we try to do? I mean, that's another thing.
Yeah.
Proactivity.
Right.
Yep.
It's Westpole.
And on that, I forget what it was, but we have a certain amount of listings in Dripping Springs over 50 acres, right? And as a team, being able to be boots on the ground in that area helps us know how to market to that area. We know what we see and catches our eye.
Really,
Therefore,
the
we
whole-
know what's going
yeah,
to
the
catch
whole-
other people's
the
eyes
whole
as
hill
well.
country, yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
the whole
yeah.
hill country.
So-
I mean, we're in the gateway to the
Right.
hill country, right?
Yeah.
That's our expertise. And I think education is a large part that goes into marketing as well.
Absolutely.
Right? Because we're able to educate our clients about the property, about the market through the level of marketing that we do. And outside of pictures and information, that includes emails, mail outs, etc.
Yeah.
Because in order to represent a client properly, they have to know everything. Well, they need to know everything we know, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of times I think people in our industry or clients feel led blindly into a property. And they're like, how did we get here? Why this property? Yes,
Yeah.
it's what I want, but I don't quite understand. And keeping them updated through that process is extremely valuable.
Yeah, exactly. And you see these listings oftentimes are tied to an agent that is primarily a residential realtor, but
Right.
it's a friend or relative that's selling their ranch and they list with their friend, and
That could be a couple $100,000 mistake. Right.
bigger than that.
Yeah.
Bigger than that. I mean, if they don't have the right expertise, the right geographic competency, the right experience negotiating a deal of that size, that's an area that I see mistakes made all the time. And so, you need to work with someone who is a land and ranch specialist, as we are. And if you're working on a property that has, a high value or any kind of intricacies, having the experience to negotiate at that level, to deal with, attorneys on title work, to deal with issues with minerals, which is your area, stuff like that it's more than just putting it in MLS and writing something up and going to closing.
Right.
But-
I think we've done our job if it seems seamless, right,
That's
for the
what we do,
client.
yeah.
But in reality, behind the scenes, I think a lot of times people don't understand there's a negotiation going on. There's conversations with attorneys, negotiations with the other party, the other realtor,
Yep.
locating the property, dealing with certain easements, restrictions, minerals. But, that's not to belittle what we do, but when a client feels like something was easy, we've done our job.
Amen.
And it doesn't mean we weren't working hard,
Yep.
but it means we did something right.
Yeah. Well, speaking of behind the scenes,
Yeah, seriously.
we've got
Yeah.
the greatest behind the scenes support of anybody. And, part of the process involves a lot of paper shuffling. It involves a lot of data collection. And another thing we haven't even mentioned yet is print materials. And Tonja helps get all of that done and get it done in a fashion that's easy on the customer, easy to understand. And Tonja's experience allows her to have such a base of knowledge to help clients go through that process. That can be frustrating, but she does it in a way that's so thorough. And I love the term, like, we never close late, we never close ugly. Everybody knows what's going on all the way through the process, from the beginning to the end of getting the listing documents together, getting all the marketing material together, making sure we've got all the data to our marketing team and to our website development people, and having all that together. So talk to us about that. How do you do that, and how do you make it seem so easy when I know it's not?
Well, I make these guys do most of the work. No. Yeah, so one of the things about our process, I think, that might set us apart, even though we do have administrative staff, our guys are still very customer facing. So it's about the clients, and it's about their relationship with the clients. So that never goes away. It's not like they hand it off to me once the listing is underway, once we're under contract. So they're still very much involved, making sure the client is taken care of. Now, behind the scenes, obviously, there's a lot of paperwork. There's a lot of, especially, it's the plus and minus of being with Keller Williams, honestly. I mean, it's a big company and requires a lot of compliance paperwork to be done, which is a good thing. It's just
Probably
It's to
good.
protect
it's a good, it's to
everybody.
protect
Yeah.
everybody
Yeah.
involved. So anyway, so yeah, it's just about making sure, you know, we calendar everything. We make sure that, hey, this is coming up. Make sure your client has the option money to the title, you know, that kind of stuff. So that way it's just like, oh yeah, this is the next, we should have a title commitment in 20 days. Oh yeah, they make sure we have all of that stuff. So I kind of work with the title companies. I work with Keller Williams just to make that part of it. Again, I go back to this probably every time we talk about it, but it's about letting you guys do what you guys do, right? And then that way your focus is that. I have a degree in finance. I was a coach. I've done all these things, and so that's what I do. I'm the one that can pull the paperwork, make sure that all of our ducks are in a row, that kind of stuff. So I think it just makes the client, they might not even know I'm here. You know what I mean? It makes you guys look good. And so that's what I do and what I like to do. And so it's a really good compliment. And I think the ones who benefit are the clients.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned title companies, and that's really important to have a good title company representing, or they don't represent, but I mean,
Very important.
working on the process, providing the title insurance, because it can get really complicated on ranch deals where you
Yes.
might have a whole lot of deed research, a whole lot of title evidence that has to be sifted through.
Yeah, a lot of these deals are generational.
Yep.
Or they're owned by multiple family members, or somebody has passed. You get a listing, and maybe before it goes under contract, a spouse has passed.
Yep.
Or, because it's land,
Or
a lot
there's
of it's been in the family a
multiple
long time.
heirs who are the
Multiple
sellers,
heirs.
yeah.
Yes. So there. I think yes. Can that happen on residential? Yes, but the amount of times it happens on a land or ranch land deal is significantly more
Yeah.
in my experience. And so having a competent title company that honestly makes my job easier, that makes your job easier, because they're on top of it,
Yeah.
and we don't have to worry about getting 5 days out from closing and
Yep.
this deed restriction has come up, or
Yep.
this, anyway. So yes, absolutely, title companies are, I've worked with good ones
Yeah.
and I've worked with bad ones, and it's makes a huge difference.
Yeah, and oftentimes we'll run into, a lot of buyers of higher end properties. They have attorneys, and then the attorneys will file objections to the title insurance being offered, and then there's a review of that and having to go through that process. And a lot of times, if you're dealing with a company that's not used to that, they kind of don't know how to handle that.
Right.
And so we have evolved with relationships with title providers, with appraisers, with surveyors, with people who know what we do. And I think
With
Yeah.
our farm credit people.
Right.
I mean, we've got
Our
those
lenders.
people too.
Lenders,
Our lenders
yep.
are a huge.
Yep.
I mean, that's a make or break thing. So,
Totally. Yep.
Yeah.
And having that, sort of band of relationships among our, affiliates that, make things better for our clients, because a lot of these people, they've never sold a property before. And they don't know who's the best title company to handle it. They don't know who to call if they need a survey. They don't know how to handle some of these issues if they come up. So
Kind of goes back to being proactive with these relationships.
totally, yeah,
Get some of this stuff out of the way.
yeah.
So to Tyler's point, it seems like smooth. yeah.
Well, and we like to ask questions, up front. One of the things we always want to know is what's important to our clients. Why are you selling? What are your goals? Are you buying another property? Can we introduce you to a 1031 tax exchanger that could save you a ton of money on the tax you might have to pay on this? It literally goes on forever, the list of things that we could talk about of how to best help sellers. But I think when it comes right down to it, having what I call a higher standard of marketing, having the experience of multiple years of handling, big transactions, of negotiating really, really tough deals with, tough parties, having that experience and knowing how to maneuver through that to protect your client and look out for your client's best interest. One thing I want to touch on before we wrap up is commission. That comes up a lot, and some of the higher end deals that we do, people are like, well, that's a lot of money, would you do it for less? And, I'm not going to say we don't ever, because if it's big enough, yeah. But, typically we're providing so much value in this process, and we provide so much of our own money up front. We will spend a massive amount of money on a transaction before, because we didn't even mention our print materials. I mean, we put together some of the best print brochures and folders and data. The same thing that's on our website. It's something that we can hand somebody at a showing and all that. But, the typical, response is, if we're going to get you the most amount of money, we talk about the range. The range is, if your price is too high, there's nothing that me or any other real estate broker can do to help you, because the buyers just aren't going to pay it. And right now, since the market has moved down, there's a lot of that going on and a lot of overpriced properties out there. And on the other end of the spectrum, if you price your property low enough, you don't need me. People are going to be knocking on your door. But in the middle of those two extremes, there's a range, and it sometimes can be as much as $1 million or more. And in that range, what we do is we bring you a qualified buyer who will pay at the top of that range, because we've provided all the information, we've dealt with all the issues, we've negotiated on your behalf, and you're going to walk away with more money in your pocket paying us a full commission than you will paying somebody else a discounted commission. Because I can tell you from experience, 9 times out of 10, when I deal with a deal where it's one of those realtors like we talked about that doesn't have good marketing and hasn't invested and don't know what they're doing, never done $1 million deal before, those are the ones that are cutting their fee just to get that, big property listed. And then the sellers in the process, they can end up walking away with less money than they would have by, paying a full commission, But real estate commission requires that commissions are always negotiable. And, and I'm not going to say never, 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 but I will say rarely do we do it unless it's a very, very high dollar deal, or I have done it to help out people who are in a bind before. I'm always charitable in that way. But so I guess, is there anything else that y'all would add? Did we miss anything? Anything that we could,
I think pricing properties correctly on the listing side
Whoa,
is something.
How did I miss that?
Is
Yes.
something really important. I like to tell the story of, we have been kind of in a down market, and I like to tell the story of Tyler had a listing, a couple months ago, 6 weeks ago or whatever, and he priced it right, and it went on the market, and it sold in a week. And so,
And there were 2 other properties in that
In the
same
same-
area that had been sitting there for how long?
Oh my
Long
gosh,
time.
long time, over
And
half a
they
year.
and they hadn't sold.
Well, and one of them was priced the same, which is where our marketing comes in.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
I had people contact me after, I probably had 4 or 5 phone calls after I'd already sold the property
Yeah.
about the lot that I had listed on the Guad. And I had to inform them that there were other properties available. They had no idea.
Yeah.
Right? That's when our marketing comes in, and the fact that we're on multiple MLSs. We're on Lands of Texas. We're on Zillow. We're on Realtor.com. I mean, you name it, we're there.
Yep.
You will see our property if you list with us.
Yep.
And I think this is a perfect case study of that.
Yep. And you had that under contract within a week.
within a week for
Yeah,
full
That was
price.
fun.
Full price.
Yeah, for
Full
full
price.
price.
Wow.
Which, I just don't, we're not seeing that as much right now
Yeah.
in the market. And so that is just a testament to our marketing, yes, but also that property was priced correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't price it correctly, it's likely going to sit there. And,
Yep.
we try to educate our sellers on that.
Yeah. Yeah, there is so much, like with sellers right now that, they heard a neighbor got X amount of dollars for theirs, and so they're kind of stuck on that. Well, yeah, that was, we're not in that market anymore. You missed the top, but what I've been trying to point out to those sellers in particular are, if I had told you in 2018 that you could get the price that you really can get today, you would have been ecstatic. It's that your expectation got overinflated, and now we're down here. But we're not down here, which is where we used to be. So you can still come out ahead, by selling, but you've got to price it right, and you've got to affiliate with the right people to get it marketed and sold for you at the best price possible. And,
I mean, historically, land is what, 5-7% increase year over year.
Yep. It's one of the greatest long-term investments ever. And
we'll be straightforward and tell you this is what it's worth now, because
yes, exactly.
we'll communicate it, and we're in it every day. So
Yeah.
we're not trying to yank your chain or anything.
That, now that you mention that, Grant, there have been instances before where I might be in competition for a listing, with other brokers, and the seller is like, well, they said they could get more than you said I could get for it, and I'm like, that doesn't mean it's reality, and
They might just be trying
and
to
even
get the listing.
sometimes, they'll list with that person, and I'm like, go ahead,
Call me in
call
6
me when you're
months.
done.
yeah, call me when it doesn't sell, and then hopefully the market hadn't gone down anymore by then. So that's it's important to work with people that know what they're doing, know how to price your property, and know how to represent this aspect of real estate, because it is much different. It's not like just a realtor is a realtor. So anyhow, we're running out of time, so there's so much we could talk about that for hours and hours, and it's also something that I'm extremely passionate about. So I could talk about it for even longer. But anyhow, thank you guys for your input and your time today.
Absolutely.
I hope this has been very valuable to our listeners. If you have property that you are thinking about selling, connect with us. We can guide you in the right direction, and we will shepherd you toward a good outcome. And one thing I will promise is that we will represent you from the heart and take care of you like you were family, because that's what we do. And I want to thank you for your time today. If y'all have questions, reach out, holler at us. You can go to our website at gowestpole.com. And remember, whatever the force is inside you that draws you to the outdoors, go get it, get outside and enjoy it. Go West Pole. We'll see you next time. Thanks.